Good on you, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, now with a UK economist accusing mortgage brokers of putting dodgy loans to banks, which he says could undermine the bank stability, which I think is absolute rubbish, I have the CEO of the Mortgage and Finance Association, Siobhan Hayden, on to see how the industry reacts to these accusations. And we'll also talk about Labor's proposals on negative gearing and capital gains tax. Siobhan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're the CEO of the MFAA, and your key members are mortgage brokers.
That's right.
When you read in the Fairfax Press, or you might have even seen the Current Affair, and it was 60 Minutes
on Sunday.
Did you get really angry and cranky at this Ponzi pommy economist?
Look, I think there was a lot of sensationalism put into the coverage. So 60 Minutes initially didn't expose anything about mortgage brokers. It was about poor lending practices. Look, I think there's a couple of things. There's not one property market in Australia, which is what I think Jonathan was trying to suggest, and that everything was going to go down the gurgler. We have pockets, and they're all very different. So when you're attached to a mining town, there's obviously values that will go up and down based on the mining sector, and I think even people buying in that area know that.
Well, Palm Beach prices went down 30-40% after the GFC, and Gold Coast is probably even worse.
Yeah, and property is not a 12-month proposition either, which I think people tend to forget. We're not buying them and hoping to sell them for a profit in a year's time. Yeah. So there was that component, but then obviously what did get my direct attention was on the Wednesday in the AFR, his notion that he'd gone out shadow shopping brokers.
Yeah, like the movie The Big Short.
That's right.
Wasn't that dramatic?
Well, it was frustrating because I think, firstly, his allegations are very, very serious, and I find it difficult to understand, to be honest, because a broker is facilitating the engagement, shall we say, with a lender or in that space. Their job is not only to understand the customer's needs with responsible lending, but then also to support that with documents, and you can't just write down what you earn and have the bank then assume that that's correct. So what do you call it, group certificates, payroll slips, lender statements that show what you're earning going into your bank account are all things that would be used to support an application.
All the stuff I get from mortgage brokers and the people who work with me as well is the banks are really playing hardball.
They are.
And they, sort of capital adequacy has been a big issue since the David Murray inquiry. And so this guy is just looking for sensationalism, I think.
Well, I understand he's about to release a book, so maybe he's given a bit of oxygen to himself. So, look, I've been trying to get in front of him personally because I would like to look into, his allegations further.
Yeah, of course you would.
Obviously, we have a...
Name names.
Well, look, just understand the other side of the story and to ensure that people are acting in an ethical way. We do hold that in high regard.
Do you ever kick mortgage brokers out of the MFAA?
Yeah, we do.
How often?
Well, interestingly, we're in partnership with ASIC at the moment on our industry review as we speak. So I actually looked at factors today. 47 members have been either suspended or had a sanction against them in the last 5 years.
But how many numbers are we talking about?
12,000 brokers.
Yeah, so 47 on 12,000 is a pretty...
In 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years. So... Yeah.
And the volume of residential mortgages is... sort of 293,000 transactions in a 6-month window. So we're talking extraordinarily high volumes across 12,000 participants. So it's fairly low.
Yeah, OK. Let's talk about then. So we'll forget the UK economist.
Yes.
Let's but go after him. Try and get him.
Well, I'm still trying.
Yeah, good.
Call me Jonathan.
Let's go to Labor's proposals on negative gearing. I'm not expecting whether you're a Liberal or Labor voter.
I don't think it matters.
Well, it could matter a bit if you're unbiased or unbiased. But the thing is this, what do you think the implications of those changes to negative gearing would mean for the property industry?
Look, I think firstly, let's just make sure that we're clear that neither party has put out a firm policy. Okay. So they're testing the water, I think, and testing the noise in the market. Yeah. Definitely any changes to negative gearing would have an impact. I'm quite clear on that. We have a tax at the front end with stamp duty, and at the back end, if we change that, investors in property are looking to have a balancing point. If they're paying a high tax at the front end, what's their reward for adding to housing stock or buying private housing stock to get a benefit from that? Now, Labor's suggestion is to not only obviously on new housing stock, which is what we're trying to encourage. Yeah. I think looking at one factor in isolation is probably not the right way to go. New housing stock is difficult close to CBDs, so it's more out of fringe.
I guess it could encourage apartments.
Yeah, medium density. What we really need is good infrastructure, so we combine build new housing stock at, say, the base of the Blue Mountains and actually get to work in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so
that'd be good.
So there's bundled issues that we need to consider rather than just fix that and that'll fix this. It's quite interrelated.
Yeah. What about the Labor proposal to reduce the capital gains tax discount from 50% down to 25%?
I think it has an impact, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at the whole notion of property investment, you have to consider the upfront stamp duty, obviously the ongoing repayments and or any depreciation, which is obviously better on a new property. But then also when you choose to opt out, whatever period that may be, what your tax implications will be. Yeah. And if it has a significant change to that, I think it would impact on people doing that.
Yeah, I know. I did a conference in Melbourne 2 weeks ago, and one of the guys chased me as I was leaving. He said, "Well, look, I've got an investment property."
You've got long legs. You should be able to get away.
Yes, yeah, he was pretty quick. Anyway, so he said, "I've got 2 investment properties, and I'm thinking about selling them now." And I
All
said,
the changes.
Yeah, he said, because if Labor looks like getting up, there could be an avalanche of landlords trying to get rid of their property. So do it now while the prices are still pretty high. And I said, well, what will you do then? You know, wondering whether you go to the share market. He said, "Oh no, I'll buy new properties," and that's going to push up the demand of investors for new properties, and developers will wish to probably build apartments. Probably not in Melbourne because they've got an oversupply, but Sydney hasn't got an oversupply.
It hasn't, but I mean, apartments potentially, but it's again that ability to people to get to the infrastructure around it. So yes, we do need more housing stock. I'm not against that notion. We're a housing supply overall, particularly in Sydney, but we need more than just new housing stock on.
Who's kicking the butts of state governments? Because they're the ones who really overload the costs on developers. So like 30 to 40% of a new home price or apartment is state and government charges. Are there groups like you agitating and teasing governments?
Not on our current short-term agenda. We're working in partnership with the industry regulator at the moment on reviewing our performance in our sector. Yeah. So that's what we're working on in the short term. But it's not off the to-do list, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is an important one. I just don't think there are enough people actually, because like obviously state government have to get money from somewhere else, so it probably has to be a federal government initiative. But getting new stuff, new homes, new apartments cheaper, that'd be good.
Yeah, well, I mean, managing the supply. Yes, I agree. Yeah. No worries.
Great. Siobhan, thanks for joining us on the show.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
That is Siobhan Hayden, CEO of the MFAA. Okay, coming up after the break, Andrew Bland, a lawyer, will look at the 7-Eleven pay scandal and tells employers what they have to avoid to do to make mistakes like that in the future.